Built in the 517 is a podcast about the people who make our local business community what it is. In each episode, host Katrina Hofstetter sits down with business owners from across mid-Michigan to hear their stories, their challenges, and what it really takes to build something from the ground up. The show exists to spotlight local leaders, support small businesses, and strengthen the connections that keep our communities thriving. Here's your host, Katrina Hofstetter.
Welcome. I'm your host, Katrina Hofstetter, and this is Built in the 517, the podcast that brings stories that inspire you, encourage you, and introduce you to your next favorite local business. My guest is Simeon Lowe, owner of Fabricated Customs. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I know you started your business sometime in 2018, and it sounds like you did this to really meet a need for yourself, but also maybe in the community for this custom apparel. And you really wanted to have high quality, but also good customer service. Can you kind of tell me about what fueled that?
Yeah, 100%. So I started the business with another partner. His name's Gabe. He actually lives in Phoenix, Arizona now, but originally he was here in Okemos, and I was living in Grand Rapids. So we worked together at a medical imaging company, which was decent size. He was actually my boss initially at the time, but we saw that there was a gap in the apparel industry, and we were kind of burnt out with what we were doing. I mean, it was high demand working in that space. And so the gap was that a lot of times the majority of people don't really know how to order custom apparel. They've never done it before. And then they have two options. One, they can jump on to like an e-commerce website, like Custom Inc. or something that's like a really big organization out there, where they can try to find a local option. And there wasn't a lot in the middle. Also, the few times that I'd done personal projects where I was ordering apparel, it's like, man, there's 1,000 different t-shirts out there, like literally thousands. And I don't really know which ones I like or why I like them. So I would order something, I would end up getting it either in the mail or going and picking it up. And it just never quite seemed to be what I thought it was going to be. So yeah, in 2018, we were looking at starting the business. Neither of us had ever printed a shirt, never embroidered anything, never done it. And so that learning gap was pretty significant. We were both in really stable places with our work too. So I was like, man, what are we going to do to replace incomes? Like all of those big questions that most first-time business owners have to ask. We started it just working in his basement, as classic, businesses do. We bought all the equipment, started learning and, hopping online, watching YouTube videos on how to print shirts and doing all that stuff. So we launched the business kind of in the background. And then after 6 months of really running down that runway to see like, hey, can we get clients? Can we actually do this? Then we made the decision to jump into it full time.
Wow. Yeah. Is that when you made that decision to jump in full time? Is that when you opened your location in Portland, or did that come later?
Yeah. Nope, that was at that time. So we leased our building, which it freaks you out, right? Because it's like, man, what if nobody wants to buy anything and I still have rent, I still have overhead? But we made the decision and knew that if we were going to do it, we kind of had to have a home base. We had to have a place where customers were able to see us. And doing it out of the basement is great, like especially if it's a side gig, or if you're just trying to learn something. But eventually, a lot of businesses like the ones that we were competing with, you really need to have a brick and mortar location.
And I'm kind of in the same boat. We've been out of our basement for, we have a home office, and we've been doing that for years, but I travel to clients, and that doesn't work if you've got an embroidery machine and a screen machine.
No, so
makes a lot of sense. So you talk a little bit about the customer service side of things.
Yeah.
How do you feel that your business is kind of unique in that perspective based on those experiences you were having before with like the big e-commerce companies?
I think it's always a work in progress, right? Customer service, clients are coming to you typically for one of two things. Either you're providing a product that is really outstanding, or you're giving them a service that, they feel like they can't get elsewhere. So for me, looking at customer service, that was kind of my background. I was in either sales or customer service for 20 years. And I realized, man, you can have a really great product and have really poor customer service, and the outcome isn't going to necessarily be that the customer returns, because if they have any issue or if they have questions and they don't feel like they can engage with you, that's a big component of why people go where they go. It's like a coffee shop that you go into that you're a regular, when they see you and they say, hey, we started your drink. How are you? How are your dogs doing? Or whatever it is.
Mhm.
It's this thing that like it's this connection point
Yeah.
past the actual, what it is I'm buying and, what store I'm walking into. So I always felt like that was such an important component of any business, no matter what you're doing in every industry, seeing a customer. And it doesn't mean that the customer is always right either, right? It's being able to evaluate and say, like, what is the customer asking for out there, and being able to solve problems alongside them, shoulder to shoulder. And so that's where we kind of adopted this idea that, like, when our customers run into a problem, like, a commitment that we've made is we will make mistakes somewhere along the way. And 100% of the time we'll make it right. And it looks different
Yeah.
based on each situation, right? Like it could be, with one client, we'd handle it one way and another way with another, but just being able to sit alongside the customer, we felt that has allowed us to grow in a way that maybe some of our competitors haven't focused as much on it. But that's what we'll stay committed to down the road.
I love that. To me, I hear just this element of authenticity too. Like you're going to be vulnerable and say, "Hey, we did make a mistake. We're going to fix it." You're not going to get something like that from some big company online, even if you do get somebody to talk to. So I think that is just an amazing pillar to have as part of your business. And people care about that, even when they're buying t-shirts, because they do want the quality, but I mean, that customer interaction side of it, that is what's going to bring people back. Absolutely. So you've got a lot of products. I looked through your website, and I will say, I was looking through the little feed where it talks about some of the companies that you get your products from. And I'm a lover of Bella and Canvas. It's like so soft and buttery, and I love it. And I've always gravitated toward companies that will use products that I'm familiar with that are good quality products. So you've got, shirts, sweatshirts, I think I saw shorts and pants and hats and all of those things. What does the typical process look like when somebody wants to print on one of those items? If it's just like myself, I want to print something on a shirt.
So first we'd start the investigation process. We'd say, what type of apparel do you want? What's your logo? Do you have a logo? Do you need help designing one? And then really just trying to educate you on what screen prints well. What would we use embroidery for? When does that come into play? And the different application methods. And then what we did in the first part of the business, we bought like hundreds of t-shirts and different apparel types just to try them, because we knew, like you had said, you like Bella on Canvas, and it was like, man, I don't necessarily know why I like it, but we had kind of identified, like, here's the makeup of the materials, here's the fits that people tend to lean towards. And so we have gone through and kind of pre-selected what we like, which is a pretty big differentiator from a lot of the other screen printers that I've worked with, at least, where they would typically choose the cheapest garment because they can mark it up the most and still make the most profit without the customer really knowing why. And so we kind of did it backwards. We said, let's pick the apparel that they want. And then we're not really going to give a lot of customers a million suggestions. We're just going to say, here's the one that I would recommend. And so that would be the next step in the process, is saying, hey, here's 2 or 3 items that we really like. And if you have preference, by all means, like, some people know exactly what they want, and that's great. But the vast majority don't. And so we're going to pick for you. Imagine like going into like a bakery and they specialize in like a certain type of, like, I don't know, baked good. And you're like, well, I want this. And they're like, well, we've never made it before, but sure, like we'll bring it out and see how it turns out. It's like, chances are it's not going to turn out as great. And so we found the formula, if you can keep it simple and do what you know, that's going to be the best for the client. So we would recommend the item. You would end up, going through, seeing digital mock-ups of those items with your logo on it. We'd make adjustments if you want badge or chest or back or whatever. And then from there, it's ultimately put in the quantities. How much do you need? Here's your quote. And then you would receive a link to review it, approve it, and then you can just pay online, and then we produce it.
Nice. I'm assuming that people could pick up their orders in Portland, or you ship. If you've got your e-commerce, you're going to ship to them as well.
Yes. Literally, I mean, like yesterday, we served customers in Denver, Colorado. We served some in Florida. We served some in like Cadillac, Michigan, and then also locally in Portland. So depending on where they're at, of course, we want to give them the option to have it shipped to them, or come and pick it up if, it's a rush, or they just want to come and see the shop and, say hi.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned embroidery and screen print, but I also saw there's this direct to film application Never heard of it. I'm just curious what that means.
It's popped onto the scene in the last 5 years or so.
Okay.
And really what it is you buy it's an inkjet printer, and then basically it allows you to print a design, put an adhesive backing on it, and then you press it into the shirt.
Okay.
A lot of people think vinyl, which yes, it's kind of like that, where you'd use this, pressing it with the heat method to get it to apply, but it's actually ink. And so it allows you to do short runs, like if you just need like 5 shirts, which our minimum is 10, by the way. So we still don't do 5 shirts. But for some people, it's great because it's like, hey, I could do one design with like as many colors I want in the design, and it doesn't really impact cost. And so it's a great way to do one-offs, or just if you have to do a reprint. And so that's where we really utilize it in our business, is saying, hey, this is a really complex design that we wouldn't want to screen print. It would be way too expensive. And so the direct-to-film is a great spot to use that.
So I'm assuming if it's similar to vinyl but more complex, you can do multiple colors. Like it's like actually a picture or something.
Yep, you can do photorealistic stuff too. So if you wanted your face or your husband's face was really big on a shirt, which I'm sure you do, you could do that, and we could print it off, and it would be like as high resolution as the image is what we get. We're screen printing. To do that process is incredibly complicated and complex.
Yeah. I'm getting all of these ideas now that you've said that, because I kept seeing all of these ads online where you can get like somebody's face all over like a Hawaiian shirt, something horrifying like that. But
you want to traumatize your family? Yeah, for sure. We can do that. We got you.
In looking at your website, there were a couple of things I was clicking on. I was like, what is this? And I dug deeper. So you have these on-demand shops that is amazing. And I'm sure other companies have this, and I'm not aware of it, but you set up businesses with apparel, and then people can just go buy stuff. So can you share a little bit about how business gets started to do that?
Do you mind if I give you a little backstory on how we got there?
No, go for it.
If I get too in depth, just shut me down. So when we started the business, it was all bulk ordering. It was like, you knew that you needed 20 or more shirts of a design, and you would send that to us. And then we would produce it all at once. We'd put it in a box, and then you would distribute it. You'd have to collect the money from like the people that were in your group, or, you'd have to figure out all sizes and all that good stuff. We realized really quickly that customers, they weren't asking for it, like literally, but we could feel there was a demand for people being able to get their own online, like digital storefront, and to be able to share just a link out to people, and then have them go in, place their order, transact on our website, and then we individually package and either ship or let the organizer distribute them. So we refer to those as pre-orders. And those are really, really good for like schools, for, if there's a basketball team that they've got, a whole like spirit wear shop they want to run. Then you just send it out to the players, coaches, athletes, and parents, and let them do their own ordering, and nobody's stuck in the middle trying to collect cash and ultimately getting screwed over because somebody doesn't pay, somebody doesn't pick up or whatever. So we started doing it with pre-orders, which was our first step into like the e-commerce, like where you're actually transacting with a digital product, but it's not made yet, right? So it's a little bit trickier. You're selling something that hasn't been made, and then ultimately on the back end have to produce it and get it to the person with it being the right size, the right variation of, design, all of that stuff. So that took us a good 3 or 4 years to really even figure out that and how we could make money on it. I was adamant against it because it was so much work on the front end of like, man. And Gabe, my business partner, thankfully, he was like, no, I think we have to do this to be relevant. We have to allow people to use, their phone to place their order, not like actually call in and put in a order for 50 pieces. What we were doing in the past is we would do it as a pre-order for like 2 weeks, and then make everything at once, package everything at once, and ship it. So it wasn't like a la carte. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So going to the on-demand structure was a little bit different, because now you have to monitor orders daily. You have to make orders daily, and then you have to make sure that they're going to the individual business and like place, like throughout the entire process, that you don't have mistakes there. So we had a customer that really wanted it. I was like, hey, I'm going to beta test this. It's going to be really messy. Like, it's going to suck. Like, I'm telling you, like, we're going to have to figure this out together. And they were cool with it. And so we ended up setting up what was our first on-demand shop, which basically is just a digital storefront that's open 24/7, 365 for a business. We look for businesses that have like 50 or so employees or more, because it makes the most sense to have that amount of like traction, just getting it set up and monitoring it and running it. We want to really make sure it's worth it for them and for our team. But yeah, now I think we've got a number of clients that are now doing this on-demand thing, and we're still learning it, and we're still spending a lot of time figuring it out. But it's been great because it allows a small business that might not want to constantly have to go and buy apparel and hold inventory and then be like, oh shoot, we're out of smalls. Now I got to go order 20 smalls just to have the individual person go place their order and have it show up to them. And it reduces waste, right? Like, because we're not buying a bunch of stuff that ultimately is going to sit in a supply closet and then get donated. So it's been interesting to learn. It's what I'm most excited about. And our next year, I think it's going to be a big component of what we do long term, but it's kind of hard to manage. But it's good.
It reminds me of when my husband and I had to order shirts for church. So we run the kids ministry at church, and we wanted to make sure everybody had a shirt with the logo on it. And it was like, oh, okay, we got all these people, we got to get all their sizes. And then, are we collecting money? Is it Venmo? Is it cash? It's just, that's a hot mess. So being able to set something up like that, that's a huge service. I love that. You also mentioned the schools, and I saw you have some partner schools on there, like just being able to go out and get merch for your school if you want to have something, or like you said, if the athletic, the basketball team or something wants to have something put together, that's a really cool offering. And I'm sure that and the on-demand store, that's something that really can grow and just continue to bring in business. You mentioned earlier, you said you and Gabe started in the basement. So you guys got the machines and everything. Right now, everything is still just done in-house, all the embroidery, all the screen printing. You've probably got a ton of machines, right?
We do. Yeah. I mean, as far as we've got 2 presses for the screen printing side, we've got multiple embroidery. Yes, it all adds up to being a lot of equipment. We didn't start off that way. We started really simple. And that was kind of our theme, is like, always start simple, and then you can make it more complicated as you are more familiar with it. But in the beginning, it was just the screen printing equipment. We didn't do embroidery. Quite frankly, I don't know personally how to run all of it. And that's like, just because we have really great people that have excelled, and like, they're much better than I am in the production component. That learning curve, it's just with time, like anything, right? It's like, man, I've never done this before, and we're going to try it out. And so that's how the equipment is. You just learn it over time.
Maybe a stupid question. The screen printing is the thing where you like put the screen down and then you wipe the ink or the paint on it, right? And then you lift it up and you switch a color.
Yeah. So the way a press works is you basically have to have a different screen for each color in the design. That's why you'll see when, you say, I need a 3-color design. And it's like, oh, if it was a 1-color, it'd be this much. But if it's a 3-color, it's this much. And that's simply because it's more complicated to set up. You have multiple screens that you're pushing the ink through onto the shirt. An auto press, so basically that uses air compression to run all the squeegees to push the ink through. And so you load it and it'll move to the next station and hit it. And then we have a manual press too, which is probably what you've seen, or what more traditionally is what people think when they see screen printing.
Yeah.
But it's a really, like, it's the balance of an art and also a science. Is like, you have to get dialed in on like why things are going to look nice. I mean, I didn't realize it was going to be as complicated as it was when I started. I thought it'd be really simple in my mind. And then you see these companies out there doing really elaborate, complicated, complex designs, and it's a craft that they've honed. And, we sit in a space of saying, we're going to be really excellent in what we do. And there's certain things we don't do just because it would take too much time and too much effort to learn.
Well, yeah. And you kind of have to, I always think of like, I have my wheelhouse, I stay in my lane. I don't do these other types of law. And so if you want to be really good and excel at these 2-3 things, that's okay. Like that's what brings quality to the marketplace.
And if you have a customer that's like, I want you to do this maritime law thing for me, it's like, I probably would not be the best person for it. I could bumble my way through it, but that's us too. And that's why we selected the products. That's why we use specific application methods. And that's why we also say no too. I can't be everything to everyone as much as I would like to be. And that's a lesson I've had to learn the hard way, where I've said yes to jobs that I just had no business running. And it turned out terrible. And I had to, walk back to that customer and say, hey, I made a mistake. So it's just learning all of that and learning what our lane is.
Yeah. And I love you pointed out, you have to be able to say no as a business owner, whether it's a service or product. Just knowing what you can't take on, whether you don't have the time for it, you don't know it well enough. Yeah, that's hard. I'm still learning that lesson as well.
We experience, I think, a lot of customers have been told like the customer is always right,
Yeah.
which translates to the customer gets to choose whatever they want. And we live in an age of abundance, right? Like Amazon is a thing. Like you order
Mhm.
something and it literally can show up to your door that day. And so the expectation that customers can just get anything they want whenever they want it is a reality. And so, well, it's not wrong. It's just the world that we're living in today. And I think the majority of customers are really gracious, though. If you say, hey, we can't do that, and here's why, it's like, okay. And it's as easy as that a lot of times. It's just, having the willpower to, either turn
To do
down a
it.
job or just to say, man, I might upset them, and that's okay.
Yeah. I do want to switch gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about the business side of things as far as products and services. I want to talk more about the operational side. And
Sure.
you did share a little bit already about what the early days looked like, starting in the basement with the one machine and then kind of scaling up after 6 months. Is there anything else that you want to share about kind of the operational, the building the business side in those early days?
At first, me and Gabe realized that we had to do all of the work. Like you have to prove concept, right? You can't just go out and be like, hey, we're going to hire, employees. We don't have any clients. We don't have, even any idea what we're doing, but we're just going to go for it.
Right.
And so we were doing everything from, making the screens, washing them out, which is really like nasty, not fun work to have work in the dark room, printing the shirts, to ordering them, to selling the customer on the design, doing the design work, learning the technology. And then there came a day where I remember we hired our first printer and it was like, oh my goodness, like I have to give this up. And operationally as a business owner, that can be pretty tough. And I see this with a lot of owner operator businesses where it can be really hard to hand off certain components of their business because they are excellent in them, right? They're the bar. And I totally get that. And, some businesses, that's the way they want to run it is, owner operator, where it's, hey, I'm doing all of the tasks within the business to provide the service or product. And that's fine, but you can only get so far doing that because we're all limited to a 24-hour day. We want to spend time with our families. We want to do other things. And so that was the hard thing in the first couple of years, was learning, man, I have to be willing to allow somebody else, not only to get better at me than what I thought I was really good at and take my piece of the business, but also to make mistakes and have it be reflected on me, just like you, right? We rely on teams of people because we realize there's only capacities that, we have. And without others, we're only going to be able to do so much and serve so many clients. And so that's been something as we've grown that first was really hard. And now it's really, really fun because I've, been able to have the luxury of seeing some employees come in and start, at the most entry level position that we have, just working in the dark room or just folding shirts or whatever it is, and seeing them over, the course of years prove that they can add value and benefit and serve customers and do it as good or better than I would have done. And so just that handing of the torch across those spaces has been hard, but operationally it's been 100% necessary if we want to grow the business. And that was from the get-go. When me and Gabe started, it wasn't like, hey, I'm passionate about printing shirts. Like this is my lifelong dream. It was, I'm passionate about serving customers through the space in this industry. And the way that we can do it bigger and better is by teaching other people alongside us, bringing on really good team members to help us get there. But it's a joint effort. I mean, like I will say 100%, I have to have deep trust in our team to handle situations and also to train them and say, like, here's a situation you might not have run into. I've run into this a lot. Here's how I would handle it. And, just coaching and modeling what that looks like. And hopefully you do that well enough for a long enough time that it becomes part of the culture and the DNA.
Yeah. You said something early on. I don't remember how you worded it, but toward the end, you mentioned just passing the torch. That I think that's got to be a struggle for a lot of business owners. I felt my assistant's eyes on me, whether she was or not. I felt her just vibe coming from like, yep, you've got to continue to work on letting go of some things and being able to pass it on to other people, because it is a really hard thing to do, especially when you do start all by yourself or like with you and Gabe, and not being in control, letting somebody.
Why do you think it's so hard? Because I'm always curious to hear other business owners' perspective on that.
I think that And maybe it varies from business to business, but for me, I feel like it's been hard to let go of certain tasks, even though the people are, more than capable of doing it because I've held on to it for so long.
Yeah.
And it feels like there's so much at stake. And so you like want to wrap your arms around it and just be in control of everything.
Yeah.
But you touched on this. Once you do let go and you let someone else step in, they can shine, they can grow their own skills. And then you really see the benefit, not just for me to be able to breathe and know that there are other people there that can support me, but you see what it does for the clients too. Because my assistant Stacy started taking over all of my like intake and scheduling, having
Yeah.
those customer interactions. And I get so much wonderful feedback about her. People talk about her all the time. She's so sweet. She's so kind. She's so helpful. And not that I probably wasn't those things, but hearing that about the other people that are my support staff and knowing, okay, it was absolutely okay that I gave this up, that I let go of that control and let her do that. But it's hard. Like when you go from one and you scale to four and you've got to give those other three people things to do. That's why it was hard for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were the best at it, right? Like from what you knew
Mhm.
and in that space. Yeah. But man, like think about like your work journey throughout, your career.
Yeah.
If you had not been given some of those opportunities to learn and to fail and to do that in a safe setting, it's just, I don't know, it wouldn't have launched you to where you're at now. And so you gotta think you're doing that also for your team.
Yep, absolutely. Maybe a silly question. I have to ask about the logo. So do you just
Logo.
like dinosaurs or is there a story behind the dinosaur?
I'm a 5-year-old at heart, Katrina.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, it was it was bred out of necessity. And also we were just like, we want something that we wanted the energy of our company to be light
Okay.
and also like clean and fun. Something that you don't take too seriously and yet
Yep.
like will be memorable. And so we're like, what about a dinosaur? I'm like, I think they're pretty sweet. He's like, all
Yeah.
right, let's do it. And when you start a business, it's like, this thing might not go past like the next 2 months. So
Right.
like we'll do whatever we want. And so yeah, we selected a dinosaur and it stuck around. It got named. And we ended up just kind of like rolling with it. And now here we are like 8 years later. Like, what did we do? But people remember it. I mean, they see it on our
Yeah.
store window and it's like, I don't know. It's just been something that's part of our fun brand. And
Okay.
it didn't really get bred out of much outside of that. Like a lot of initial businesses, it's like, why'd you do that? It's like, I don't know. Here we are.
It's a great story though, just that childlike appearance of it, but it does have a little bit of a story to it. I think that
Yeah.
whether it's the name of the business or a logo or a motto, there's something behind it. And it is interesting to kind of draw those things out when I talk to other business owners
Yeah.
and find out, why they built the business in a certain way.
It's got to be bred out of authenticity. I think a lot of businesses take a lot of time to really like think through what is my design going to be? What's my logo going to be? Is it going to have these certain like syllables in it so it will be memorable and all of that?
Mhm.
And yeah, like if I'm sure there's a lot of marketing research that will prove me wrong, but I think your brand and your logoing and whatever it is should be an indication of what type of business you want to run. And so
Yep.
if it feels like it like matches the vibe and energy of what you are putting out there as a product or a service, it's like,
Yeah.
cool, like go for it. And I've also seen a lot of really badly branded businesses
Yeah.
and they're successful, like as long as they're doing it right. So you can't take it too seriously, but I
Wow.
also understand people that want to.
I noticed that you promote your staff a lot. I've seen a lot of posts on Instagram and just really highlighting the people that are doing the work either behind the scenes or at the storefront. Is there anything that you want to highlight today about the staff or that you want to share about them?
Just that they're great. It's easy to say. I think the thing that has been the most fun in the last year is seeing just our team elevate to different areas and take on more. Me and Gabe, our big push this year was like, hey, we're going to stop doing some things that were really in the day-to-day function of the business. Do you guys want to step up and take those on? And so we've got 3 department heads: operations, sales, and then production. And so each of those individuals has just taken on a role that is more critical to the business, allows me to spend time, working on the business in ways that I hadn't in the past. So we hire really, really specifically, which is a little bit different from our industry where we'll do, 3 interviews before, somebody gets a job offer. But we really look at the character of the individual
Okay.
first and say, like, would they be a character fit within our business? Because if not, they could be incredibly talented and skilled, but if they don't match the character or the values that, you know, we say our team required to have in the building, it's just not going to work. And I made that mistake in the past, right? Like hired somebody who was really skilled in their, you know,
Mhm.
specific area, and it just wasn't a match from like a character standpoint
Mhm.
or what we demanded as a requirement. And so we've just got a team of people that care about what they do and they're kind. Like that's such a big component for me personally, is like I've walked into my own business and felt like I was walking on eggshells because I was working
Mhm.
with people that I didn't feel like had the ability to be kind. And that's a weird spot to be in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of business owners out there can empathize with
Hmm.
that moment. So it doesn't mean that we always hire perfectly, but we do try to make it really weed out the people that aren't going to be a fit in
Hmm.
3 to 6 months. And we try to hire for the future too. And saying like, man, I want somebody to want to work here for 5 or 10 years. And so not just trying to find a quick fix for stuff. We found staff that they're just incredible. I mean, I feel like it takes a long time to really learn like how you as a business owner or how you as a leader operate and how you can motivate and compel people. But man, they're just resilient and they show up and they do the work every day and they have great ideas and great questions and they challenge each other. Like that's a big piece of it too,
Hmm.
that everything doesn't have to run up this chain of command, that they can sit alongside their coworkers and say, hey, when you did this, it like made me feel like this. I don't know if that was your intention or not, but have that type of conflict. So yeah, we've just got a crew of people that aren't perfect by any means, but they're trying.
Yeah. Sounds like it's a pretty fun place to work
I
with
think
a
so.
group
I
of
mean,
people.
yeah, yeah, and they're silly. Like we're it's this very, and again, a lot of business owners can empathize with this. It's a really fine balance of having a lot of fun and being way too chill. And
Okay.
like you gotta, I mean, we talk about it a lot and saying, hey, like it feels like we might be like teetering onto this like relaxation mode over
Hmm.
here. But man, I've never worked somewhere that was like super chill, that nobody was getting work done that was enjoyable. It's like
Yeah.
people want to be challenged. I certainly do. And people want to feel like they're contributing. I think that's the bigger thing, is feeling like you have a piece in the success of the business. And so just being able to hire and say, hey, we are going to have fun, but it's not like kumbaya, like we're just always a family, always goofing off. It's like,
Okay.
we're going to have fun and we're going to bust it. Like when it's hard work and we're doing it together and we can still, you know, smile and make jokes, like that's a pretty fun spot to be in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now you've got your established storefront. And I
We
think
do.
that for people who have that brick and mortar, advertising and marketing looks a little bit different from people who maybe work from home or,
Mm-hmm.
just it works in a different way. So I'm just curious, where do you focus your marketing and advertising efforts right now?
Currently, we're spending a lot of time on the building up our back end like SEO and like really
Okay.
making our digital footprint more meaningful.
Yeah.
We've been really fortunate in the sense that we haven't marketed a ton. We try to do it really authentically, where it's like if we are sending out an order, yeah, we're going to include marketing materials into that order, but we're not going out and trying to like cold call a ton.
Yeah.
We're not trying to get a lot of that random, you know, I've never met you. I don't know if we're a good fit for your business, but you should use us. So we've kind of landed in the sweet spot of having a lot of like referral business,
Yeah.
which is awesome. And then also selecting like where we're good and then just approaching those specific targeted markets. But a storefront, like you get a lot of walk-in traffic, but it's not necessarily the good walk-in traffic a lot of times.
Sure.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of people that, yeah, they've got a project or an idea, but it just might not fit with what we're trying to do. And so our retail space is really designed to showcase what we can do and provide the city of Portland and community with an option to buy local apparel. You know, I would really lean more towards like our digital footprint, you know, being the
Okay.
marketing piece of our business.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. I did see that you had a collaboration a few years ago that kind of falls into that little bit of marketing and advertising realm, but you partnered with Confluxity and,
Yeah.
did your own beer,
We had
right?
our beer release. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't make the beer. Fortunately, Jim and Kylie over at Complexity are are ballers, and they made a really good beer that we were able to put our brand on it. It was Fabricated Customs. And it was just one of those fun things. They're a local business. They're doing similar things from their, brewery standpoint that we would like to say we are doing in our screen printing shop. And so it's just when you align in those areas and it's like, hey, what if we did this together? You realize that the majority of small businesses, man, you are so much stronger when you're doing stuff, together than like trying to like do it on your own. And they've got a clientele that I don't have, and I have a clientele that they don't have. And so let's just push them into the same building and see what happens. So it takes a special type of alignment, though, to be able to, launch co-campaigned, initiatives like that. But that was an easy, fun one that we did. And I would love to do a lot more of those. It's also just making the time to do it, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it was, interesting from the design perspective, putting together the label for the can, and they had to build, I don't know, their recipe because it looked like it was its own special thing. But yeah, it's a lot of work to go into that. I love collaborations like that. Do they still make that?
They didn't. It was a limited run. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And so they said, I think we're going to make X amount of bottles of it. And then we designed and ordered all the labels. And then we did like a special line of apparel for it and had a giveaway. But it was like, hey, once this is done, it's done forever, which I like those things too, because it allows you to like sit in a creative space for a very short term of time, knock something out, do it, and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But again, it's taking the time to do it. And when you're busy, that's the first stuff that goes away, I feel like.
Yep. I agree. Yeah. Before we wrap up, do you have any events or anything coming up that you want to share about?
We don't have any specific, like this is a fabricated event, but normally we'll do like an anniversary event at our shop where we'll just do like live printing, which we'll advertise that. If we do it this year, it's in May. And then we always do pop-up shops. So like, for example, I think this next week, we're at a basketball game in Grand Ledge where we're going to be selling custom apparel specific to the basketball team, to the comment. And so, if you ever see a big dinosaur banner, we're probably there.
That's you. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you again for joining me. It's been really great to talk with you. And I especially like the business side of, what have you gone through? And I think there's so much value in connecting with other business owners and hearing about what they've gone through. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that today.
Thank you for being a podcast too on this stuff, right? Like it's time out of your day, and it's also, helpful, hopefully, to people out there. And it takes work and production on the back end that people don't see. So thank you for doing this and hosting me.
Yeah. If you're watching and you want to be a guest on the podcast or nominate another business, you can email Beth at cornerstonelegalpllc.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Built in the 517. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel today and support local businesses in the 517 and hear more inspiring stories.